last night sucked. I was trying really hard not to make it feel like it was like, my decision.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who's Beats, your girl Kylie B coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind Season 8, Episodes 10 through 12. So let's get right into the video. We're basically talking about Lauren and Dave first. So we left off with Lauren and Dave basically trying to get dinner ready so Dave's friends could come over and meet Lauren. Essentially, they had like a big, discussion about it, where he basically said like he doesn't feel comfortable bringing his friends over, so he decided to go over to a bar with his friends, stay out the entire night, go to his apartment, stay there, and his phone died, whatever. Didn't come back until like midday to their shared apartment to speak to Lauren. Lauren basically met with her, family, her mom that night or whatever. They talked about Dave, whatever. She's very upset that Dave did not spend the night at their shared apartment together and wasn't really there to comfort the situation. He's still on the whole, oh, you were with a guy before the pod. You were with a guy before the pod. My friends know you're that guy, da-da-da-da. They keep on telling me things. My sister's not comfortable with it, da-da-da-da. That's what he's basically saying. So, Dave was out all night. He was with his friends. His friends didn't meet Lauren. And there you have it. They continue with their relationship, dating, whatever, because he's like, oh, I still, love and care about you. We don't have to be in this if we don't want to. Da-da-da. No one's forcing us to be here, whatever. So continue on to, they meet Lauren's mother. So Lauren's mother is basically telling Dave, like, hey, you should not have outside noise basically affect your relationship. You should, basically supposed to focus on your relationship, you two together. It's a partnership, supposed to have each other's backs, whatever. So moving on, they have another date. They're going bowling, whatnot. Lauren's basically kind of insinuating or basically inquiring, like, we're getting closer to the wedding date. I still haven't met your sister. I haven't even had any communication, haven't had a phone call, a text, FaceTime, video chat, whatever. You haven't met in person to either your friends, your sister, anything. So they didn't really want to speak in the bowling alley. So they went to some type of other theater center. So they started talking about this. So they met Lauren's father off camera because he didn't want to be on camera. And I guess Lauren's father was basically saying hey, Lauren is ready for marriage. She's ready. But it seems like you're not so ready for marriage. And I guess it didn't sit right with Dave. He's like, wow, how could you say that I'm not ready for marriage, but you were dating a guy a week before the pods? Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So he's kind of I didn't like how your father was coming at me. You're saying that I wasn't ready, but you're ready, da-da-da. So he's still stuck on the whole, oh, Lauren was with somebody before the pod. She was having some type of relationships with them. And, he doesn't like that, that person has mutual friends with his friends and they just been discussing about it and whatnot. But I'm just you didn't give Lauren a chance to even discuss anything with his friends, your friends, Dave. You're basically keeping her shut out with no communication to either or. She's like, well, why can't I meet anybody? He's like, oh, it's so hard. I just don't introduce my family to anybody. You're going to marry You're going to marry this girl. Assumingly, you are. This is the person that you want to get married to. Lauren's not just anybody. So for you to be basically saying, oh, I just don't introduce anybody to my family. She's supposed to be your wife eventually, if that was the route you're going to go on to. She's going to be a part of your family. So the fact that you're not letting your family meet your future wife-to-be is very crazy, very wild. She did say, maybe she should have ended things, whatever, the first time when they brought this up. But for her to continuously say things like that, it's just kind of a moot point at this point. So it's very redundant. They spoke about this a lot. So, he just seems not to get over it. But I'm just you didn't even give Lauren a chance to really speak her case or try to introduce her her thing to your family or your friends, or like say what she needs to say, kind of left her out of the loop, and basically just kind of like talking about her behind her back to your friends and your family. And it's just kind of like, okay, she's trying to defend herself, and she's like, she doesn't really know what she's essentially defending, to or who. So anyways, he seemed like, well, if you don't want to basically invite me or like introduce me to your family or friends, is like, he basically kind of like ended things, like basically made it to his point, like, he's ending things with Lauren. So Lauren just like, yeah, like he can't get over that fact about her being with somebody before the show, and she was just like listening. She was very patient. Then she decided, okay, like I'm gonna up and leave. She ups and leaves. While this is happening, Lose You to Love Me by Selena Gomez was playing, and I'm just like, wow. This song was very much for this entire moment. Basically, that song. We later find out that Lauren, she wrote a letter to Dave's sister, wanted Dave to like give her the letter to basically explain herself to the sister, whatever. He never gave it to her.
This wouldn't matter if like he was in love with me enough to want to marry me. You want to marry me, but like you're not going to let me explain to your sister and your friends a hookup that I had? When he went to go see his sister like a week ago, I like wrote her a letter to like explain who I am and like the whole situation and like how crazy it is, but like how much I want to be with Dave and like how much I love him and how much I care about like her support. And he just like didn't give it to her.
It's like Dave never gave Lauren the chance with his family and friends after learning this information, and it's just kind of like very upsetting. So I mean, at that point the relationship was done. So then the next day they have basically a sledding situation where all the couples meet up. They bring in the pod people in there as well, and basically Lauren came in first. She basically said like her and Dave is gone, like they broke up, whatever, they're not together anymore. Basically saying the whole situation that happened. Dave also showed up to the situation. And let me just say this, Molly's a real one, because Molly, even though she was being very funny, she was basically telling Lauren, like, as soon as I got out the pods, I saw his selfie, she was like, yeah, I'm good, I'm cool off of that. Like, she just basically like Dave who, like, yeah, you can keep him, essentially. She explained the situation to Molly, and Molly was just like, yeah, he really didn't like give you a chance, like it shouldn't really matter, he didn't fight for you at all in the relationship at all, and he should have fought for you, he should have like defended you to his family, like, hey, like give her a chance, like let her explain yourself, and he never gave her that chance at all. Molly was really a real one though. Dave showed up later on, and then he and Molly had a discussion, and basically Molly told him off, like, I wouldn't have cared if you were with somebody before the pods, like there wouldn't be nothing to care about. If she already told you that it wasn't really a relationship, it was really ended it wouldn't have mattered. Once she's with you, she chose you to be the person that she wants to be with. You shouldn't have cared that she was with somebody prior to this show, because that relationship is invalid at this point. She told him off, basically said out like, Lauren's a really great girl, she's a really great friend, I would always have Lauren's back. Molly even told Lauren that at the bar that they saw each other at or whatever, she said that one of her friends or one of the pod peoples basically saw Dave, like a girl all over Dave, and she's like, she doesn't really know what all over means, but basically she was gonna reach out to Lauren about it, but she didn't want to feel like she's the other woman, or she's kind of like trying to break up some type of relationship. So she didn't really say anything, but she's like, I really hope somebody else says something to Lauren. So but Lauren didn't know about him going to the bar and the pod people and whatever. So then after that, Dave comes over and basically he's like, you know, I really want to speak to her, want to have talk to her, like I really do love her, da 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 da. Comes over here, talks to Lauren, and she's like, yeah, we can have a talk, you know, we can chat. And basically he's just like, he does really still love you. He should have fought for her. You know, basically saying all the good things that he should have said previously. All the good things. He said that he wanted to text her, but she's like, you didn't even text me. And he's like, well, you didn't text me either. But she's like, why should I reach out to you after you ended things? Like, why should I keep on trying? I tried 150% in this relationship, and it seems like you weren't even giving me 50, you know? So she was just like, why should I keep on trying reaching out when you wouldn't even, when you weren't doing that with me and you didn't do that for me? So she heard what he had to say, but she was just like, right now, I don't know. She's like, I don't know. You know, she was like, right now, I don't know. And, you know, heard what he had to say, but he just like, at the end of the conversation, he's like, you know, I let my ego get in the way. And I'm like, you really did. You let your ego get in the way of her having a previous relationship before the show, and your friends and your sister come into the way of what you and Lauren could have had. And, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. You let friends more so, and your sister basically took control of your life, of you potentially getting married to somebody that you say you care and love about. But it is what it is. Lord and Dave are no more, no mas. They ended things. So it's down to 4 couples. So let's talk about Taylor and Daniel. I feel like they, after that speed bump at the end of the pods, they've been smooth sailing. Like, I would say probably like one of the most wholeheartedly healthiest couples there are on this show right now. So they're doing really good. Having dates. They really love Christmas. They're taking, you know, Christmas photos, whatever, having, you know, ice skating dates or whatever. You know, just having fun. They had little wedding dress, you know, clothing shop, whatever. And, you know, it was really nice to see that Daniel's mother was also there for Taylor when she was trying on dresses and stuff like that. It was really nice to see, like, having both families be part of the situation, even though it was like a very quick situation, very fast paced. Being there and present is probably like the best representation of like what this experience is supposed to be about. Like, even though this is not conventional or how you're supposed to do things, it's probably like the best thing to see. Like, you know, your mother and father is, you know, there for you guys. His mother and father's there for you guys. Like, it's very nice to see. Like, just seeing Daniel's mother there was just really nice to see. Like, she supports the decisions, you know, good or bad, whether they're making. So, you know, they're going great. Seems like they found their people. They found their person in each other. They love Christmas. Like, great relationship all around. The next relationship that we're going to be talking about is Joey and Monica. So, first episode at the gate, we basically, in episode 10, Monica's sister basically like took pictures, like engagement pictures of them, and, you know, basically tried to like redeem herself with the whole first introduction to Joey, because Joey clocked her. Like, she was basically giving bitter and jealous, and she was like apologized to him about how she basically reacted to him. Basically talked about the energies between Joey and Monica, like he's high energy and she's a napper. And I'm just like, being a napper is not all you are. So I'm just like, doesn't really make sense. And the thing is, like, even in their first interaction, you and your family basically put on a musical performance in front of Joey, playing a banjo, whatever instrument you guys were playing. You put on a musical performance in front of Joey. So the fact that you guys like, oh, I'm a napper, like she's very low energy, like you guys had a whole musical performance in front of Joey. Like, what it is. She apologized for her behavior, whatever, and basically it's just like, you know, she's not 100%, but she's gonna give it a chance and, you know, stick with what Monica is doing. Basically they're just trying to, like, you know, smooth things over with how she was to Joey, and Joey basically asked her point blank, like, you know, what was it about me that you didn't like? And she's like, it wasn't nothing about you. So there we have it. Thing about Joey and Monica is, I guess Monica seems a little bit into Joey, and I guess Joey is kind of like, he's still kind of like weighing his options, and like she wants to have that affirmation of Joey basically saying like he's 100% in, you know, he really loves and cares about her, all that, and so on and so forth. And yeah, I guess she's not getting that from him. So, you know, she's like kind of thinking about that in like her confessionals. But, you know, Joey, he just like, you know, he's not going to have a right answer for her until the day of the wedding. But he does love her and whatnot. And, you know, his friends ask him like, hey, you know, what does Monica brings to your life? Like, what's going on? Like, do you really love her? Would you drop everything for her? All that and so forth. And he did say yes. So we just have to see where this goes. I mean, there's very much reservations on Monica's side and on Joey's side of like, if they're going to say yes at the altar. So there we have it. But, you know, they seem to have fun relationships. They're, you know, doing fine, having fun. Yeah, Devin and Virginia. So this whole prenup situation. Anyways, before prenup gets talked about again, they were just having a little chat with, you know, Virginia's mother. They finally meet Virginia's mother, and like she was asking all the hard-hitting questions, basically like, is Devin the one? Do you really love Virginia? Do you really love Devin? Da 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 da. Like, you know, you're supposed to be there in sickness and health. Like, how do you feel that Virginia comes from a divorced family? Like, all that and so on. Basically, all the good conversations. So they were later on talking about that in bed, and basically she asked him about like his political views, and he's like, oh, I'm not really into politics. Like, okay, how so? She basically says that she's like more democratic with her family. He basically says that, you know, his family is more conservative. She's really talking about like, you know, being a Christian, mostly, you know, with politics, people tend to think like, because you're a Christian, you're like supposed to have like more conservative views on the politics. And she says like, you know, not necessarily, like being Christian like doesn't necessarily means that you have to have that conservative views, essentially, like, you know, Republicans, essentially like that. So she was just talking about like, you know, she's more democratic, and he's like, oh, he's more conservative, but he's not really into politics. And she like said something like, oh, like, you know, her family's black. So he's like, my father's black. And I'm just like, I just like had to laugh, because I'm just like, he is biracial, he does have a white mom. And you know, she's like, well, she's talking about in general, like her family's a black family. And, you know, so I guess I don't know if he felt some type of way. He definitely felt some type of way about that. But she was just like saying in general, that's why she's more democratic with her stuff. But she's like, you know, the political system is flawed anyways, but in terms of politics, she is a Democrat and things like that. So she was just asking like, how he feels about these, you know, different political views and things like that, and so on and so forth. And I'm just like, he didn't want to put an answer to it, but I mean, he does feel like, you know, he was saying something like with the abortion rights, like how, you know, the guys would have a say, and she's like, you know, ethically and morally, yeah, you know, depending on what you want to do with the potential child, you know, it'll be nice to speak to the father of the child about it. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is the woman's body. So it's her decision at the end of the day. So, you know, it is what it is. So there was that conversation. Then after that, they had the prenup conversation. So she brought it up again. She was just like, you know, it's basically straightforward. We come into this relationship with whatever we come within. We leave with what we have. And if we build some type of, you know, empire together, then we can find a way to split it together. That's about it. But we just, you know, we don't really come into a marriage thinking that's going to fail. But the whole point of the prenup is just, if worse comes to worse, we have a plan in place of how we're going to do things. It's just basically like how if someone has like life insurance, essentially, if worse comes to worse and someone does die, the person who has that life insurance, has a plan for what comes after. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, people look at prenups like, why would you have a prenup? Like, do you come into this marriage thinking that it's gonna fail? Like, no, but you just want to have precautions. Like, think about life insurance and, having something to happen after your death would be very morbid, but, you want to be prepared for it, So, I mean, essentially, that is basically, what you can really put into, like, if worse comes to worse, whatever happens in, a situation, you'll be prepared for it. And that's all she's really just trying to say, just to be prepared for it. I mean, especially since she came from a divorced family, like, you should be understandable to why she's thinking like that. So he's like, oh, he has to, read it over again, speak to his family about it, give it to his attorney, da 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 da, and before he can sign it. And she's like, okay, all right, that's fine. So then he came like the day before the wedding. He's like, I'm gonna sign it. He signs the thing. He's like, I read it over. They all said like, basically straightforward, basic. And she's like, I've been telling you, I wasn't trying to pull one over on you. It was basically straightforward, basic. Like, we come into whatever we come in with, we leave with whatever we leave with. Whatever, if we have something together, we'll find out how to, split it. She wasn't pulling one over on you. So they do sign it together, date it, whatever, and it is what it is. Is what it is. So the last couple we're gonna speak about is Sara and Ben. Sara and Ben basically having this discussion on religion. He's a Christian, she not so much. Or not at all. She has a gay sister, and all that going on. So basically, Ben met her sister and her partner, and basically talking about like, oh, the acceptance thing, like, oh, blessing and acceptance and whatever. And she basically like, oh, why should we be accepted, da 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 da, this and that, like, have that whole discussion and talk about it. Then I guess they went to the church, and she went to church with Ben. She didn't think she was gonna ever go to church with Ben or church in general, and she went to church with Ben. She like basically after church service, she was just like, I don't know if this is gonna be for me, whatever. Then later on, she watched a video or service about her beliefs, in the church, whatever, and I guess she didn't really like how they were like using the examples of it. So she was like, asking Ben on their like final date, like, oh, like, would he be comfortable with like trying to look for a different church, or like, I wouldn't really be comfortable going back to another service unless it's like Christmas or like a holiday or something like that. And like basically things of that nature. That's what she was just basically saying, like, it's not for her. I mean, at the gate, you knew Ben was a Christian. Like, I understand you have your views, but he also has his views. And his views is just as important as what you feel like you believe in, When it comes to Christians, people think that, like, they're so rigid or not, open to hear what people has to say. Like, they're so rigid or whatever. But I feel like, on the other hand, of what we've seen, the people who are so against it seems very rigid in what they're set. There are ways that what they're set. Like, they'd be surprised to see like somebody so caring or open. He said that he feels comfortable with going to that church. He feels good about it. She wants him to feel like he should find a different church that, meets her, requirements. And I mean, he is open to it. I mean, I guess if later down the line they do feel like, they want to do that, then sure. But I mean, if you're not really interested in going to church at all, I just feel like maybe you should just stay home, essentially. If you're not feeling like that. I mean, granted, this is a step in the right direction, because if you never thought you were ever gonna step foot in church and you're actually like going to church and watching services, then maybe being with Ben is basically impacting your life in a good way, a positive way. that maybe later down the road you might feel okay with like hearing the word of God. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I mean, I feel like her and her family is a little bit rigid. I mean, I think her mom goes to church and she was like asking, her like, well, if you went to church with Ben, would you feel comfortable going to church with me? And, she kind of like laughed over and passed it up. And I'm just like, it is what it is. I mean, I don't think she's conforming for Ben. She's just giving something a try. I mean, and she's just basically telling Ben that what she doesn't like and doesn't like. I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like if the common ground, if you're not going to go to church every Sunday with him, then maybe you should stay home while he goes to services. I don't know if that's something that you will be fine with. But if you do want to be in service with him, I think maybe the compromise would be to find a different church. But, I mean, you can find a different church, but at the end of the day, the Bible, the word, is what you're supposed to be focusing on, is what you're supposed to be focusing on. So if they're preaching and teaching the word of God, then, good, it is what it is. My thing about that is just like, if religion is going to be a problem, then you shouldn't have said yes to an engagement. You shouldn't have, like, he's not going to stop being a Christian because you feel like a religion is a problem. I mean, I feel like you shouldn't, if you feel so high on your morals and what you believe in, then maybe he shouldn't be the one for you, But if you're willing to work together and, basically compromise in this relationship, then I guess it can work out. I mean, I think a couple 3 to 4 seasons ago, there was like this engaged couple, which this guy was an atheist and this girl was like a Southern, Christian. And I think later down the line, she was just like, yeah, no. I feel like this is another, example of that same relationship, but I feel like she's trying to give it a try. And I feel like as long as you're trying to give it a chance, that's a good thing. If you're kind of like ready to shut it down, but I feel like they're still going to go to church. You can expect somebody not to go to church. Okay? So, I mean, but if you don't want to show up, then that's on you. No one's forcing you to. No one's forcing you. Now, if you are willing, if you say that you're willing to go to service, on holidays, be there on the holiday. Fine. But if you really want to be there every Sunday with him, I guess the compromise would be to find a church that will fit both of them. And that will be fine. But if you're not really seeing yourself going to church, reading the Bible, then my thing is you can stay home. He'll go to church service. I mean, is what it is. Anyways, at the end of the episode 12, we're getting Sara and Ben's wedding. So, Sara will basically still says that she really loves him, but, maybe she has like a little bit of reservations. He just like, yeah, he really loves Sara. Like, he's ready to say yes at the altar, whatever, and so on. So, I mean, we just basically get left with Sarah's answer, whether she says yes or no. Sarah's stepfather, Andy, he was like basically kind of like so funny because he was just like, are you making the right decision? Like, this is your decision. Make sure you make the right decision. Like, this is your decision. Make a decision. Because the sister was kind of like hopefully she's doing it for herself and like not trying to please people. So we don't really know what Sarah's gonna say. I feel like she's gonna say yes. I mean, I just feel like she's going to say yes. I mean, if she says no, then surprise, surprise. But I feel like she's going to say yes. Because a lot of the editing, I will say, is very much misdirected. Like, let's circle back to the pod people showing up. Madison showed up, and she basically was like, after the pod, Alex came out, saw her Instagram, was like, oh, let's meet up. She was just like, well, didn't you just broke up with me? Like, why should we meet up, date or whatever, like, give her a chance. But I guess because he saw how she looked, he was like, yeah, let's start dating, basically she was like, we just broke up. She's basically explaining it to other girls, like how, he didn't really want to be with her after saying that, she couldn't have a bad day or whatever. Then also she was just like how his, viewpoint on Mason was like, oh yeah, I don't like Mason, da 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 da. But it's just like in the pods you were like defending him, and now out here you're basically saying like, oh, forget Mason, da 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 da. She was just like, Alex is a big liar. So I was just like, oh, so her issues with Alex, because Alex decided to just jump out of the DMs and basically try to meet her up and hug her and try to date her, and she's just like, well, we just broke up in the pods. Like I put my all into the pods and you rejected me. Why should we date now? So it didn't happen. It didn't work for them. Meg and Mason basically decides to start hanging out, dating, and Madison is still kind of icked out by Mason, but I feel like it's nothing to be mad about. Like, it is what it is with the relationship. It didn't work out with you. It is what it is. Meg is fine with whatever she's liking with Mason, so it's good for them. Also, last thing I want to speak about is like the bachelor parties and whatnot. First of all, Devin gives Virginia a basketball and a basketball jersey. Like, okay, so Virginia could wear the basketball jersey that says Team Buckley. I mean, it is thoughtful, but I'm just like, the gift is more so for you than for Virginia, but Virginia was appreciative of it, so it is what it is. Then they had the girls be, dressed up as senior citizens, grandmas, whatever. And it was kind of funny because seeing Taylor with the grandma outfit, and then she had like the wires around her nose, I was just like, this is so hilarious. But let's talk about who's gonna get married and who's not. I feel like Sarah's gonna say yes. Joey and Monica are gonna say no. Taylor and Daniel are gonna say yes, and Devin and Virginia. He basically, in the preview, Devin waits till the day of to be like, I don't know if I'm gonna say yes. Like, dude. I mean, I feel like this is a misdirect though, because I feel like he is gonna say yes, she's gonna say yes. So I feel like we're gonna get 3 out of the 4 marriages, because I feel like Sarah's gonna say yes. They build it all up just for her to say yes come episode 13. I'm just gonna say it right now. They build this all up just for her to say yes at the altar. They could have just left it alone. They just could let her answer be the answer, because I feel like she's gonna say yes. That's one marriage. Daniel and Taylor are on lock. Like, to see anything other than them getting married is kind of gonna be like very surprising. That'll be the biggest surprise. Monica and Joey is looking like she's gonna say no. It's just looking like that's what it is gonna be. Or if she says yes, he's gonna say no. And looking like it's not gonna happen between them. And then Devin and Virginia, I feel like at the end of the day, they are gonna get married. So there's gonna be 3 out of 4 marriages. And I feel like that is a win for them, because the last couple of seasons, you only got 2, you only got 1. Like, yes, it's at the altar. So yeah, like, this will be a big step up from the previous seasons, because I feel like only one season, I remember one season only had 1 singular marriage. Like, do you know how sad that is? But we'll have to see. We'll have to see come next Friday who gets married. But I feel like the one that's going to be a big dud is Joey and Monica's. So there we have it. And it was also nice to see Lauren and Molly going to Sarah's wedding, because, like, Molly and Lauren are just kind of besties at this point, and it was nice to see like they showing up for Sarah. But I feel like Sarah just needs to, like, if you can't get over the fact that he's Christian, then you're just gonna have to, like, find your non-Christian dude, like, it is what it is, if you can't get over the fact. But if you're willing to compromise, and maybe down the road you will be open to the fact, like, hey, maybe I want to go to a church service with you, hey, maybe I want to be interested in the word, maybe down the line, if she does do that, it'll be very nice to see. But it is what it is. I mean, I wouldn't say like people should, pressure people or push their beliefs on to anybody, But if she is open, or if she's willing to do that on her own accord, if she was willing and on her own accord to find a service, I feel like her relationship with Ben is basically, you know, pushing her into that aspect, like, hey, like, maybe I should be interested in your beliefs, you know. If I want him to be interested in my beliefs, I should basically be interested in his beliefs. Do you understand? Like, if you want him to be interested, you know, in the beliefs that she believes in, then his Christian beliefs, you know, he want to be interested into it too, right? I mean, it's all about compromise, you know, not necessarily conforming or changing your personality, but it's about compromise, you know, for the sake of the relationship. So anyway, guys, that was episode 10 through 12 of Love is Blind season 8. And if you guys like this video, comment down below and let me know your thoughts, comments, concerns, and subscribe to my channel, subscribe, and thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.